Good morning, everyone. Good morning. For everyone joining on YouTube, good morning, my family. Good morning. Well, good morning here in Japan. It's night in America and it's also night in Jamaica. I am waiting on my guest to come on, Connie. She's joining us all the way from Kuwait, all the way from the Middle East, and she's going to be talking to us today about living and teaching in Kuwait. So I'm just waiting on her to join. It's good to see you, Roseanne. So the guest that we're going to be having today, hopefully we don't have any technical difficulties, but I'll just talk a little bit about Connie while I wait on her to join. So Connie is an animated personality on a mission to positively impact the world. She believes that we were all created by God for a purpose, and it is up to us to tap into our calling and make it worthwhile. She holds a Master's of Education degree in Instructional Design and Technology from the American College of Education and a Bachelor's of Education in Computer Science from the Micro University College. She is currently an international educator at the Kuwait National English School. Her number one aim is to share her knowledge, skills, and experiences, both inside and outside of the classroom, with the hope of inspiring people, especially young people, to be the best they can be. In a world where technology advances by the minute, she takes pleasure in keeping current and up to date so that she can always be on top of her game. She is a performer, a vlogger, a passionista, I need to ask her what that is, and a strong believer in maintaining positive relationships with both family and friends, and enjoys posting on different social media platforms. And she also has a channel here on YouTube as well. So I am looking forward to hearing what she has to say about her life in Kuwait. Just waiting on her to join. I will be right back. All right, and so she is finally here. Let me just add her. Hi, Connie.
Hi, how are you?
Girl, you had me nervous there for a second.
I was wondering if I was too early or what was happening.
Oh, no, not at all, not at all. Thank you so much for joining today.
No problem at all. Thank you for having me.
Yes, absolutely. By the way, what time is it now in Kuwait?
It is sometime after 4 a.m. Few
Oh
minutes
my goodness. So it's quite early for you. I want to thank you very much for making the time. I appreciate you coming on. I see the Woommates show online as well. Hi, good morning to you. Thank you for joining. So Connie, let's just jump right into it. Today we're talking about living and teaching in Kuwait. And you're right on the ground. You're the first person I am talking to who is actually living and working in the Middle East. So I would love to hear your story. How long have you been in Kuwait?
So I have been here for 3 years now. I left Jamaica in 2018. So yeah, approximately 3 years.
3 years. Well, it's the same for me because I've been in Japan for 3 years as well. So how did you hear about this opportunity? I was in Jamaica and I did not even know that there were teaching opportunities in the Middle East. How did you hear about it?
Well, actually, in 2017, I had two friends. They were my college mates and a friend, and they were seeking opportunities to teach abroad. I wasn't interested at the time, so I was really paying attention to them. And I remember they told me that they got a job in the Middle East. But I automatically assumed that it was Dubai because that's where most persons go to when they go to the Middle East. And so after a while, when I asked them where they're going, they're saying it's a country by the name of Kuwait. And I was like, what? I've never heard of that place ever. And so, I went and I researched it. But anyway, they went and they were there for 1 year. Up until that time, I still wasn't thinking about teaching abroad. But I was in Jamaica and I felt a little stuck. So, and it came to me, I said, you know what? I want to try something different. I want to try something new. And so I contacted them, and they were the ones who actually guided me and give me the information. I said, well, if they can survive there for 1 year, then I can definitely go and try it out. So that's how I learned about Kuwait.
Right. And it's interesting because they stayed there for 1 year and your 1 year extended into 3 years, right?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes.
So talk to us. Did you go through a company? What was the process like?
All right, so for getting jobs in Kuwait, there are many different companies that recruit for Kuwait. So actually, I spoke to a number of I not spoke to I signed up for a number of recruiters. But there's this major one by the name of test.com. The test stands for something. It's a like a Middle Eastern Arabic word. I can't really pronounce it. So I'll go with the abbreviation test.com. So they were the ones that I actually got the job through. But I had applied through other companies such as Teachaway, which is popular in the US. I have applied through Edvictus and other recruiters. So it's not really like a program in Jamaica where I could go and sign up, but you actually have to seek out these recruiters online and then sign up, upload your resume and your credentials, and then they will help you to find jobs in the Middle East. So that's basically what I did. My friends told me about the different websites, and I went online, I applied, signed up, upload my documents, and yeah, that's how I got contacted and did the interview. Yeah, and that's how it started. Did you need to hear about the entire process, or
Well, you mentioned the credentials. So for persons in particular in Jamaica, they're thinking about applying. What are some of the documents that they would have to submit?
all right. So firstly, if most time for most schools in the Middle East, you have to have teaching credentials. So you have to have a bachelor's of education, or if your degree is not in education, you at least have to have a diploma or something in education. And it must be specific to the area that you are applying to teach. So if you're applying to teach math, then your credentials must reflect that you are a math educator. So that's how they do it mostly in Kuwait. Once you have done that, once you have provided your degree, then you will need to provide also a copy of your transcript, and you will need a police record. If you're married, you will need to present your marriage certificate. You will need a health record, where you have to do a long list of tests. Oh my God, I've never drawn so much blood in my life. I had to do this long list of tests. I'm like, oh my God. So that was a big part of it. Other than that, I think those are the major documents: your degree, your transcript, police record, medical record, and of course your passport. They normally ask you from the beginning if you have a US visa, because that's where you mostly transit through the US to get to the Middle East. So if you have a US visa from before the time, that's definitely okay, or you can get it during the process. And then all of these documents have to be authenticated by the Ministry of Affairs in Jamaica. So you have, after you get your firstly, your degree and your transcript must be authenticated by the Ministry of Education first, and then you have to take them to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And your health record has to go to the Ministry of Health first for them to authenticate it, and then you take it to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And your police record, you take that one straight to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. If you have a marriage certificate, you have to take it to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Jamaica to get all your documents authenticated. And yeah, that's all they require to process the visa to get into Kuwait on their side. So there's no Kuwait embassy in Jamaica.
Right.
I don't know if there's a Kuwait embassy anywhere in the Caribbean. The closest Kuwait embassy to us in Jamaica is one in America. So if anything, that's the one where we would have to go. So the visa to get into Kuwait is processed on their side, and then they will mail it to you. It will take some time because it's coming from far. They will mail it to you, and then you use that. Once you get past the US, then you use that now to enter Kuwait. So
Okay.
yeah, it's a process.
It sounds like a long process. So what I want to know, Connie, from the time that you submit your application to actually get into Kuwait, how long did it take?
The entire process will take about 6 to 9 months.
Okay.
So
it's similar to Japan.
Yes. So it will take about 6 to 9 months. And if it's being processed during the time of Ramadan, it's going to extend a little bit beyond that because things tend to slow down a little bit during that time. So prepare for about maybe a year. Maybe it won't go so long, but prepare for about a year.
Okay. All right. So Connie, you're giving us information and we love the information that you're giving. But Connie, I want to get inside your head, the emotions. Man, this is not going to America. This is not going to Canada or even the UK that we're familiar with.
Yes.
You're going all the way to the Middle East. So take me back and give me an idea of what it was like when you were packing, when you were traveling. What was that like?
Oh wow, it was a lot of emotions. Trust me, it was a lot of emotions. It was a very hard time because a lot of things were going through my head. What am I doing? Do I really want to do this? Why am I packing up my life and going all the way literally across the world? No close family, no close friends. And I was just going out. This is the first decision I've ever made of this nature. I mean, the hardest decision I've had to make before that is probably picking out the right outfit or the right shoes. But then I was in that moment, making such a huge decision to leave my life in Jamaica, my family, my friends, especially my job, and moving to the Middle East, a place that is unfamiliar to most persons that I know, to everybody that I know at the time, because when I said Kuwait, people were like, what, where, how, why? And so all of that, there was a lot of emotion. I was anxious. There was a lot of anxiety. And the uncertainties was very scary. But I trusted God and I prayed about it. And I said, God, if I'm not supposed to do this, I know you won't allow me to go. And, I just went with him. I just went with God, knowing that he's my keeper. And even though I still have a lot of emotions, because sometimes it gets very hard, especially when you're not close to your family and friends. And even though I have made some very great connections here, it was that moment leaving Jamaica was very nerve-wracking, as we would say.
Yeah, I can imagine. I was there. What about your parents and your friends? What did they have to say?
For the most part, my parents and friends, they were very supportive. They were able to see my vision, able to see why I chose to do this. And so that definitely helped with the process, knowing that they were supportive, they had my back, and, they were willing to encourage me to actually go. So surprisingly, they were encouraging me and said, listen, well, we have to try something in this world. So I definitely had that support. So that's definitely something I am grateful for.
Okay, so that's good. So you had the support. In terms of like how much money you would need to have an idea, someone who is thinking about leaving home, leaving from Jamaica to go to Kuwait, are there any associated fees in terms of application fee? What's the idea of what a ticket would cost to travel that far? What are some of the things that they would have to prepare?
Okay. All right. So for me, and this is what I think this happens with most of the recruiters, most of the schools here in the Middle East. So I didn't, the only thing I really paid for was to process my documents in Jamaica. So, you have to pay a fee at the ministries to get your documents authenticated. I had to pay for the different tests that I had to do for the medical record. And of course, I had my US visa already, so I didn't have to pay for that at the time. But if you don't have it, then you will have to pay for that. The school booked my flight to get into Kuwait. That's a part of the package. You get a round trip ticket each year whenever you sign a contract. You also have the option of taking a flight allowance, but because it was my first time, I allowed them to book my ticket. But guess what? I paid for the process, and then the only thing I would have to pay for is to get my necessities to take with me. And then, of course, a pocket money so that I can buy food or the necessary things that I will need maybe for the first month. But when I got to Kuwait, because they told us that we can save all our receipts. So when I got to Kuwait, I gave them my receipts and they reimbursed me all the money that I spent. Yes, all the money that I spent processing documents and all of that. Once you save the receipt, they give it back, or they give you back a portion of it. So that was very good. They also gave me, like, I left Jamaica with 200 US dollars, thinking, because I'm saying it's 1 month, 200 US dollars, that's like 20,000 Jamaican dollars. It can buy food and keep me for the month. When I got here, I could not spend that 200 US dollars. I had to convert it to Kuwaiti dinars. That's their currency. Kuwaiti dinars. When I converted it, it was 60 KD. And that, I was like, I really underestimated the currency, because that 60 KD could barely keep me for the month. So you definitely want to walk with at least 100 KD, and that would be equivalent to about 40,000 Jamaican dollars. I'm not sure. You can the currency is Kuwaiti dinar. Yeah, 49,000 Jamaican dollars. So budget for about a $50,000, converted to US or pounds first, and then take it with you, because they don't even know what Jamaican dollars are there. So if you take it in Jamaican dollars, you won't have any use for it. So convert it to pounds or convert it to US dollars, and then when you get there, you convert it to their money, because they only spend their money in their country. No other currency. No other currency, right? And so that's how it was initially. So they booked my flight for me. But if you want to travel, they give you a round ticket each year. But if you want to travel like during the winter break, then you will have to pay for your own ticket. And for me, that cost somewhere between 400 and 500 Kuwaiti dinars. So that's a lot of Jamaican dollars. Right? So if you want to travel in between, then you have to pay for your own travel expenses. But most schools do provide one round trip ticket each year. And you have the choice. You can take the allowance, you can take the money, of course, or you can allow them to book for you. Yeah, I
Okay.
hope I covered everything.
Oh my God, absolutely. But what I'm hearing though, Connie, is that going to Kuwait, the Middle East, to teach, to live, that there are a lot of benefits,
Yes.
which I never knew before. So thank you for certainly enlightening us on that. Let's talk about, you mentioned money. And
Yes.
I was thinking, if I'm coming from Jamaica and I hear that, man, if I go to Kuwait and I make 100, it's what, dinar?
Yes. Kuwaiti
Yes,
dinar.
dinars, right? It's going to be 50,000 Jamaican dollars. I would be thinking, man, I would be rich. So but sometimes what we don't factor in when we're leaving home, we don't factor in some of the other expenses like insurance or like your rent and maybe like pension, those things that the country would require. So talk to us a little bit about the cost of living. What's an idea of the rent, how much you would be paying for groceries and any other expenses?
All right. Thank you. All right. Let me start with groceries. So for me, in terms of groceries, for the month, I can pay between 50 to 60 KD, Kuwaiti dinars for food. 60 to 50 to 60 Kuwaiti dinars for food. It depends on how you eat and what you eat. Food to me is relatively cheap. You can get fruits and vegetables and your staples very cheap. But if you are more on the healthy side and maybe you want to buy a few organic and vegan products, then it's going to be a little bit more expensive. But food is roughly between 50 and 60 KD, and that can serve you for the entire month or maybe up to 6 weeks. Um, in terms of insurance, health insurance, um, I can't really say how much is health insurance because the school provides health insurance. They pay for it and everything. They just give you the card and what it covers. So I can't really, and most schools give you health insurance. So I can't really say how much it would cost because based on my experience, and I've been to two schools thus far, and both of them provide health insurance for teachers. But the health insurance that they provide, it covers basically everything. You can go to the private hospital, you can see the doctor for a little or less, um, pharmacy and get your medications for a small amount, and it covers some tests as well, opticals, yeah, basically everything it covers. But I can't really say how much you will pay because based on my experience thus far, the schools provide health insurance. The schools also provide housing. So since I've been here, I've not paid rent for both schools that I've been to, and I am changing school September, and they provide housing as well, right? If you have a large family, then you can opt to live on your own to rent somewhere. In that instance, the school provides a housing allowance of about 250 KD. Now, I do have friends who are living on their own
Mhm.
because not everybody will like the conditions under which they have to
Right.
live. School provides housing, so they will go out on their own. And I know friends with 2 bedroom apartments and they're paying 270 KD per month. Um, and you can convert that in Jamaican dollars if you would like. Sorry. So they are paying between two, if you want like a 2 bedroom apartment, kitchen, bathroom, living, it's gonna be between 250 250 to between 200 and 300 KD.
Okay. And
In
um,
Yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
okay. I was going to talk about transportation. Is Should I move on or
Yes, please.
okay? In terms of transportation is very cheap, especially if you take public transportation. If you take the bus, you'll pay like 250 fills. So they do spend fills here. Fills would be like their cents. Like we have dollars and cents. They have dinars and fills. So transportation, you can go on any one of the buses and you just pay 250 fills, and it takes you anywhere. If you want to take like the taxi now you probably pay between one depending on the distance. If you're going somewhere in close proximity, it's like 1 KD. If you're going maybe somewhere 30 minutes out, maybe 2 KD, 250 KD thereabout. And yeah, it's not like taxi services in Jamaica where they pack up so many people in one taxi. No, once you get a taxi, it's for you alone. Or if you are traveling with friends, then you can split that 1 KD between you and your friends. So it's just one fee for everything. So they don't normally pick up other passengers or anything. Once you get the cab, it's just you. What did I leave? Did I leave out anything else?
Okay, so we covered rent. We spoke about groceries. We spoke about transportation. And what I want to know, though, because everyone wants to know this part, what about the salary, the monthly salary? So we know how much the expenses will be, but what is it coming out of?
Okay, all right. So if you are a teacher fresh out of college without experience, the standard salary is 700, between 750 and 775 Kuwaiti dinars. So that's if you have no experience thereabout. If you have 2 years experience, they will start you between 850 and 900 KD. Right? If you have 2 years or more experience, then it's 1000 KD and up. So it's like the more experience you have, it's the more money they will pay you. But I would say the standard is 850 Kuwaiti dinars. And you can do the Jamaican.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. Girl, I was there converting real quick. So, okay, guys. So if we're looking at 850 KD, 850, that works out to 420 average 420,252 Jamaican dollars.
Yes, but that's the Google the Google conversion. It might be a little bit less given the rate that they currently have. The rate on Google is a little bit higher than what you will get. So if you're supposed to transfer money to Jamaica, it's going to be a little bit less than that, but somewhere thereabout, yeah. So that's the standard. If you have 2 years or more experience, they will start you at 850 Kuwaiti dinars.
Okay. Continue?
Yeah. That's the standard.
Okay. And that would sound very attractive to a lot of persons in Jamaica. If you're thinking you're going...
There's no tax. So that's what you get every single month. There's no tax at all. No tax. Yeah, I remember before you continue, I remember you mentioned pension. Here they call it like indemnity, where they give you back a portion of your salary at the end of your, like a end of service gratuity. So at the end of your service, when you're finished with a school, so I was at one school for 2 years. When I left, I got like a portion of my salary when I was leaving. So they called it indemnity, right? And there's no tax, no deductions from your salary. So whatever is in your contract, that's what I receive every single month end.
Okay. And listen, no taxes is sounding really good to me right now. Not having to pay for my trip, my flight to get there is sounding good. Not having to think about accommodation if I take housing from my school, that is sounding good too. Yes. But what we want to know, the salary and all of those things sound good. And a lot of times we hear about these opportunities abroad and we jump at it without really knowing the intricacies of what is expected. So as someone there, one, I would like to know what it is like inside the classroom, so we can start with that. And then we can just start talking about like religion. you live in a country that is predominantly Muslim, and where the citizens are predominantly Muslim, and you're there, you're from a Christian nation. So I want to touch on things like that as well, so people have
Yeah.
an idea of what they will be getting into.
All right. All right. So for my first year in the classroom, it was awful. It was awful. I was it was a struggle for me for the first year in the classroom. Now the class size is relatively small. You will teach between 25 to 28 students. My first year I taught middle high school. Boy, those students, they will challenge you. So it's a private school, and it's mostly students that are well off that attend the school. They're very privileged kids, and so it's very hard to really discipline them. It's really hard to discipline them, and it was a struggle. It was a challenge for me the first year. if if I did not consider myself to be a determined person, I would not have come back to Kuwait for a second year. Right? And so it wasn't easy, especially when you teach the older kids. They will challenge you. Trust me, they will challenge you. And so I had to work very hard to get my classes under control, and to keep them under control. Teachers would pass my class and wonder how I do it, but it took a lot out of me. And trust me, it was a struggle. And if I was supposed to rate this experience on that first year, I would not have gone back for a second year. And so that's why for my second year, I switched to kindergarten. I switched to KG now. I'm a trained computer science educator, trained to teach at the secondary level. And the first opportunity I got, I switched out of middle high school and went straight to KG. That's how challenging it was for me in high school, middle high school. I couldn't stay there. And I was ready to come home. And I said, God, if you don't bring another opportunity for me, there's no way I'm staying in this place for another year. And that's when I received an email saying that we can move in the school internally. Now, I went down to elementary first, and I spoke to the principal. The departments are run by different people, so they will have different requirements. And they told me that I need to have a primary education degree in order for them to give me a job in elementary. That didn't work out. I went down to KG, and got so had it that the principal said, listen, we need teachers. And she was asking about my English proficiency. I'm like, I'm from an English speaking country, so I'm very proficient. And she said, you know what? Apply and come, let me interview you. And that's how I did KG for 1 year. Something I never thought I would have to do. So that was a great challenge. But in terms of resources and the class size, resources are there for you to use in abundance. The class size very small, and the workload is not heavy. The workload is not heavy. Lessons are, because most of the schools, they buy their curriculum from abroad. So if it's an American school, they buy their curriculum from America, and so it comes with lesson plans and all of that stuff. So you don't have to worry too much. The workload was very light. Lesson plans are already there, so you don't have that added pressure on your back. But as I said, the struggle in the classroom, especially in terms of behavior management, that really took a toll on me for my first year. But yeah, I left high school, went to KG, and then this year now I'm teaching at a British school in high school, key stage 3 and 4. But these students are a little bit more manageable in terms of discipline, and then it was online, so I didn't really have that added struggle. So yeah, that basically summed up my experience in the classroom for the 3 years. Just a secret, just a see they're all private schools. They're all private international schools. So it's mostly privileged kids that attend these schools. The public schools don't really hire teachers that don't speak Arabic because it's a public school. So Arabic is the major language in the public school, but in the private international school, it's English. So yeah, so it's the private schools that actually hire teachers outside of Kuwait. So that sums up my experience for in the classroom for the 3 years. And my year in KG was my favorite of them all. I never thought I would enjoy teaching those little babies so much. And it's something that I would definitely do again. So yeah. So that sums up my 3 years.
Yeah, thank you so much, Connie. And I can relate to that when you mentioned the babies, because I presently teach at a high school here in Tokyo, and I have had experience teaching kindergarten before, and man, the most rewarding experience teaching the babies.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Right. So you mentioned in your first year in the classroom that it was very hard. I can relate to that. Akia is on the line. She's teaching in China. I'm sure she can relate to that as well. And what I want to know, just from your perspective, you're in a different country, experiencing a different culture. As a Jamaican woman, what are some of the ways in which you cope when things get hard?
All right, when things get hard, so luckily I came here and I've met a number of Jamaicans. You know, we're Jamaicans, we're everywhere. So I came here and I've met a number of Jamaicans and I have grown close with them, and I've built relationship. That's very important for me, building meaningful and positive relationships. So that's one of the major things that keeps me going. You know, Jamaicans who have been here for 5-7 years, so they're able to give me sound advice in certain ways. So that's definitely one thing that keeps me going, helps me to cope. But I don't know if in terms of a woman, you were speaking specifically like to the restrictions and the religion and all of that. So as I said, there are a lot of Black women here. I've met a lot of African ladies. There are lots of African American here as well. So I have friends who are from Kenya, South Africa, and all of these places. So there are a lot of Black women here that, you know, I can relate to. And so I would say the challenge in terms of dress, no, we aren't required to wear the hijab and the habaya, because that's the dress code for Muslim women, right? So they wear the hijab and they wear the habaya, and some of the Muslim women wear what we call a niqab. All right. So we aren't required to dress like that. We aren't required to dress like that as expats. However, when it comes on to going to work, we have to dress properly. We have to cover up certain areas. You can wear your normal clothes as in Jamaica, but ensure that you cover up, especially when you're going to work. Because when you go to work, you're interacting with parents, and most of the parents are Muslims. And if you're not dressed properly, they will see it as disrespect, especially if you're communicating with men. Right? On a regular, when you're going out, maybe go grocery shopping and all of that. No, I see a lot of persons. You can dress regularly, you can dress normal, but if you dress revealing, you will gain a lot of attention. No, I don't like the attention, the unwanted attention. I don't want that. So I always try to cover up. But if you go out looking sexy and all of that, trust me, people are going to they're going to be looking on you, and you're going to be the center of attention because you're not covered properly and you're probably showing too much. So if you want to be respected by the Muslim community, then you need to dress properly, especially when it comes on to the men. If you're not dressed properly, they probably won't even communicate with you. But yeah, you can dress normal. You aren't forced to wear the Muslim costume, the Muslim dress. And so, yeah, just dress modest, cover up, and you're good to go. That's it when it comes on to dress. I'm a Christian, and it's a Muslim country. In terms of being a Christian, there aren't any restrictions here, any major restrictions here, like some Middle Eastern countries. In some Middle Eastern countries, I won't call names, you definitely can't be so out, with your religion. But here, Kuwait is one of the more, how should I put it, accepting Middle Eastern countries. And so there are churches here, but they have to be registered with the government, of course. They have to be registered with the government, and we aren't allowed to go out and evangelize on the street. So you can meet in the area that is allocated for church, or you can meet in the homes or whatever it might be, but you cannot go out and evangelize. So it's not like in Jamaica where people are on the road preaching and teaching and all that. No, that's strictly prohibited. We cannot really go out and evangelize in the public like that. And churches have to be registered with the government, but we are allowed to worship as Christians. And so that's definitely not an issue when it comes on to being a Christian here in the Middle East.
Okay, I see Keely's World asking, do you face racism or xenophobia there?
All right, yes, racism is here, but it is very subtle. It is very subtle. In some very subtle ways, you will experience racism. Like nobody's going to be out or, doing it in your face like that. But especially when it comes on to privilege, white people and those people will get privileges, even in the workplace. Even in the workplace, whites will get the privileges and all that stuff. It's here, but as I say, it's very subtle. So I have not experienced racism in a derogatory way where I can say, yes, it's racist. That no, it's very subtle because, people have their personal beliefs and stuff like that. So yeah, it's definitely here, but very subtle, both in and out of the workplace.
Okay, I understand that completely. I can relate to that. You mentioned that English is spoken within the school, in the private schools, but yes, Arabic is spoken in the public schools, and I'm sure in the public spaces. How do you navigate your way in social settings, at the grocery store, maybe at the doctor's office? Is English okay, or are you required to know some Arabic?
All right. So in Kuwait, now, Kuwait's population, most of Kuwait's population is made up by expats or foreigners, people from different countries. So the Kuwaiti population is very small. And so you'll find a lot of Americans, a lot of Filipinos, and stuff like that. So when you go into the business places, those are the persons working and communicating with you. And so English is well spoken here. Now, the only persons I might have a trouble with speaking English is like the taxi drivers and maybe the delivery men. But other than that, everywhere you go, English is spoken well here. There's not an issue to navigate because everywhere you go, English is there. So if you go to the bank, if you go to the medical center, wherever, English is well spoken there. So most times there are persons who can speak both English and Arabic in these business establishments. So I haven't really had a difficulty with getting around, right? Most times there's someone there that speaks English. Most persons can speak both English and Arabic because English is taught from a tender age, right? As a dual language, as a second language, right? It's taught from a tender age. So kids grow up can speak in both Arabic and English, and that's how it is basically right across the board. They know both Arabic and English, so I don't really have an issue navigating. I get around easily. If you need to ask questions, most times, um, maybe 8 out of 10 times, if you see someone on the road, they can speak English and they can give you directions. So yeah, I don't really have an issue with English or getting around at all. So English is well spoken here. Well
Yeah,
spoken.
that sounds a little bit more promising than life here in Japan. Because Google Translate is our lifesaver over here. But that's good to know. Keely's World is saying also, I think that if you're not married, I think I read that if you're not married, you're not allowed to book a hotel with your partner or rent an apartment. Is that true? Are there any restrictions?
Yes. Common law relationships are 100% prohibited, especially because of religion, and it's also against the law, right? So if you're not married, you cannot be out there with a relationship any at all. You can't rent an apartment with a spouse that you're not married to. You can't do anything out in the public with someone that you're not married to. Persons might date, but on the DL, you can't really be out in the public. You might get into trouble for that. And so it's their religion, and most their laws are highly influenced by their religion. So you have to be married to do certain things here in Kuwait, right? So, and there's some restrictions when it comes on to women as well. So for example, if I am married and I come to Kuwait, I cannot file papers for my husband to come and visit. If it was the other way around, no, and my husband was in Kuwait, only male can file papers for persons, only males in the family, right? So there are lots of things that are influenced by their religion, especially when it comes on to relationships, right? Persons do find the love of their lives here in Kuwait, but you have to be careful how you go about it, because you don't want to get into trouble with the law.
Yeah. Okay. And I think it's important as well for persons who are thinking to travel abroad to live and to work, that you do some research on the country where you are going to live. You have to adapt, you have to make changes. It doesn't mean that you necessarily change your core values, but you have to be cognizant of the laws where you live, where you're going to live, and also about the culture, so that you're not disrespectful to the people around you.
Yes.
What I want to ask though, Connie, as a Christian woman, a lot of persons would think that, okay, you're Christian and you're moving. For example, me, I moved to a country where people practice Buddhism and practice Shintoism. You're in a country where predominantly they're Muslim. Has that had any impact, positively or negatively, on your own relationship with God? And in what ways?
I would say no, because as I said, I go to church. I do go to church, and I have a church family, persons with similar beliefs that I have. And, we communicate together. We read the word of God together. And so, I have learned a lot about Muslim, Islamic, because I have co-workers and friends who are Muslim. So I've learned a lot about their beliefs, and I've learned to understand a lot about what they believe. And what they believe, it's not very much different from what we believe as Christians. There isn't really a lot of differences, right? And of course, I've come to appreciate their practices and stuff like that, but it hasn't had any major impact on my beliefs. Since Corona, churches have been closed. Churches have been closed since Corona. Churches have not yet opened, so it's definitely online. And that can interfere with your relationship with God a little bit, because you're not going to church. Sometimes you might not be really motivated to read your Bible and stuff like that. But other than that, their religion, it's more about learning about their culture, understanding their beliefs. It's more about a learning process for me, but it hasn't really changed anything about what I believe in, um, or impacted it in any negative way. So yeah, I've just been learning about it.
Okay. And Connie,
Learning as much as I can and trying to understand their beliefs. Yeah.
okay. So we spoke about learning about the culture, but man, I did not even talk about the weather.
Ooh.
So Jamaica, the land of wood and water. For those of us who lived in Portmore Hot, Jamaican Insider is here. His channel takes us all around Jamaica for those persons who are missing home. You can get on that channel and he takes you on a different tours, right?
Nice, love.
So what is your over there in the desert, man? What is it like?
The first time I came here, it was mid-August in 2018, the peak of the summer, I would say thereabout. And the thing is, when we landed, the airport was under construction. And so we had to use the stairs to exit the plane and then take a bus to the terminal. When I set that one foot out of that plane and stepped out, the heat was, I don't know how to describe it, but it was almost unbearable. If I did not have any self-control, I would have run back into the plane to how hot it was. I mean, like the breeze was blowing and it was like a blow dryer blowing in my face. You know, when you're blowing out your hair first as ladies, and you know, when it gets too hot, you just have to stop, right? It was like that, but only thing I couldn't stop, I couldn't get rid of it. It was so hot, the heat, I don't know how to explain the heat here in Kuwait when it gets hot, and then the humidity, it gets very hot and humid. I've never experienced such heat ever in my life. Trust me, not even Portmore, and I've experienced Portmore heat. And I've experienced heat in the US in the summer as well. And none of it is compared to what I've experienced. Now it's getting hot. It's getting very hot and you can't really go outside. You can't do any recreational activities outside now because even at 6 a.m. in the morning, it's hot. So if you used to go for a morning walk, all of that have to stop right now because it's so hot outside and it's going to get even hotter. I can't wait to leave for the summer break because I don't want to be here for another summer. The heat is unbearable. Also in the winter, it gets very cold. It doesn't snow, but it gets extremely cold in the winter. So you have to wear warm, you have to change your clothing for that period. You have to wear warmer clothing. It doesn't snow or anything, but it gets very hot and it gets very cold. So that's what the weather is like.
Okay. And it's interesting that you said that, Connie, because even here in Japan, like summers are so humid and we will be in the classroom like, oh, oh.
Yeah.
Then a Japanese teacher will be like, oh, Jamaica.
Nothing.
Is it hot in Jamaica? Like they're saying, like, why are you hot? You're from the Caribbean, your country is hot. And I'm like, listen, yes, Jamaica is hot, but it's not this humid.
Yeah, so, it doesn't like this, trust me.
Oh, so you move from really hot to very cold.
And because of the heat as well, once I get home on a Thursday for the weekend, once I have food and everything, I might not go back out until Sunday for work. That's how hot. You can't really go out and do any outdoor activities. So, but everywhere has air conditioning. Even the corner shops have air conditioning. So at least you don't really have to worry about going out to do business or anything and having to deal with that heat.
Right. And Nicole Plummer is asking, how often do you get to travel?
Okay, can travel as often as you want. If you want to go to Dubai for the weekend, you can go. Persons travel very often. It depends on, I haven't done much traveling, because my first year I didn't really have a travel partner, and I'm scared to travel alone.
Mm-hmm.
But last year I had planned to travel with my friends, but Corona came. So hopefully this year I'll get to travel. But you can travel anytime in between if you want to go. Dubai is like literally 40 minutes flight away.
Oh,
Qatar, 40 minutes flight away. And most persons, if you want to drink and go to club, those are the places that they go. So they might pack up for the weekend and they're off to Dubai, off to Qatar, or wherever they want to go. Yeah, and there you can travel during the major holidays as well. So anytime you want to travel in between, you can travel. And it's very affordable here. It's more affordable to leave from Kuwait to go to other countries, right? Your fare is not that expensive. So if I want to go to Dubai, the fare is about 45 KD. So are thereabouts. So yeah, you can definitely travel very often and go wherever you want to go.
yeah, and I think that's one of the benefits of going to countries like in Asia or even like a country in the Middle East, that the opportunities for travel, I mean, now we have restrictions because of COVID-19, but
Yeah.
before, the opportunities are endless.
Yes,
And being
definitely.
able to see and experience new places, it helps you to grow.
Definitely, yes.
So, Connie, what advice would you give to those thinking of applying to live and teach in Kuwait?
All right. One of my number one advice, of course, is to research. Do your research. Ensure that this is something that you really want to do before you leave your home. No, during the time that I've been here, I've seen persons come for 2 weeks, 1 month, and they are out. 2 weeks, 1 month. Yeah, people come and they leave just like that because they say, listen, this is not for me, and I'm not staying here, right? I've seen where persons have packed up their entire life in their home country, put up their house for sale, and leave their jobs and stuff like that. And when they get here, it's like they realize that this is not for me, and then they have to leave and go, maybe go back home and start all over again. And so in order to prevent those things from happening to you, I always say to research and ensure that it's for you first before you leave home. It's not easy. It's not easy to do. Leaving home to come to Kuwait or to go to Japan or China, it's not easy. Especially if you're traveling with your family. You don't want to uproot your entire life, your entire family. And then when you get here, you realize that it was a mistake. And even though sometimes we're not really sure of anything, but do due diligence, research, ask questions, look for people like me and like Sandy and Keely who are in these countries and who are experiences. And even though experiences might be different, but at least you can have an idea of what to expect and how you need to prepare. And so yeah, that's my mid. I would encourage anyone to do it because for me overall, it's a rewarding experience, and I've been able to achieve most of my goals that I set out to achieve. And so I would encourage anybody to do it, but just ensure that you do your research, ensure that you know what you're getting into, right? Before you leave your home. So that would be my major advice.
Yeah, and that's practical advice as well. I mean, even for here in Japan, my first year was so challenging.
Yes.
And I have seen persons after the first year, they just return home.
Yeah.
Everyone has their limits. So, what I am able to endure, someone else may not be able to do it. Yeah, but definitely, guys, do your research and before you make such a massive move. And Akila is saying it's definitely not easy. She's in China, I'm in Japan, you're in Kuwait. We have been there, we know what it is like.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. And the travel is a lot, guys. I mean, I think Sandy, you and Akila go a little bit beyond Kuwait because you're in based on my knowledge, you're in the Far East.
Mhm.
Right, so you go a little bit beyond Kuwait. The traveling is a lot.
It
Like
is.
16 hours in the air is no joke. People wouldn't even understand. I always say, it's not all a bed of rose.
No.
There's some challenges, and not everybody can do it, right? So being in the air for 16 hours, like taking a flight from Kuwait to Qatar, and then from Qatar to the US, somewhere in the US, maybe New York or one of those places, and then from there to Jamaica. And if you don't want to pay a lot of money, if you want to save on flights, you have to do some long layovers, like
Yes.
some 14-hour layovers. And so it's very challenging, guys. It's very challenging. It can be very challenging at all angles. So you have to be able to handle that as well. I know people who their anxiety is all the way up there and they can't manage the long flight. And so those are factors. It might seem like but those are factors that influence others not to return, or make people decide that, listen, this is not for me, because there's no way I'm doing another 16 hours flight. So yeah, all these little things you have to pay attention to.
Right. And it's important that you said that as well, because when you experience things like culture shock, if you're in Florida, it's so easy to jump on a flight and return home to connect with your family and friends. If you're in Kuwait or you're in Japan, you have to think about so much in terms of the time, the money, just to
Money.
go home. It's you're lucky, Connie. It's 3 years and I have not been back to Jamaica since.
Wow. Wow.
So, you have to deal. You have to stay where you are if you're unable to travel, right? I see Natasha right on the mentorship program just finished. Happy you guys are still on. Thanks for joining, Natasha.
Welcome.
Are there many Jamaicans in Kuwait?
Yes. The last time there, when I came in my first year, there was a Jamaican embassy here in Kuwait. It's not here anymore because they
Mm.
shut it down sometime last year. Um, their count was about 200 Jamaicans in Kuwait at that time. But I think it has been more since. So that's where the numbers are. So, but they're Jamaicans spread across Kuwait. Everywhere I go, I might see a new Jamaican that I didn't meet before. So, and then it's a small country, so yeah. But there are a number of us here.
Okay, and Nicole is asking, do you have a business?
Here in Kuwait, I have a
Yes,
business.
I mean just general, I guess.
Oh, generally, well, I am about to launch an online clothing store, but in terms of having a business here in Kuwait, then outsiders aren't allowed to establish businesses in Kuwait. So if you're going to establish a business in Kuwait, you have to partner with a Kuwaiti, because expats, you can't start anything here in Kuwait, right? So there are those restrictions as well.
Okay, and what if a Jamaican woman or a Jamaican man gets married to a Kuwaiti in terms of citizenship? Would your citizenship change?
It can change, but not for 20, 30 years thereabout. It's not an easy road here in Kuwait. And you see, the thing is, Kuwait is a very rich country because they're the oil country and they have the highest currency in the world. So they're a little bit guarded when it comes down to citizenship and stuff like that. So if you are married to a Kuwaiti, um, it might take a long, 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 long time for you to become a citizen. Your kids might become citizens right away, but for you, it's a long road. It's a long road. Longer than the US. Way longer than the US. I've heard persons waiting for 15, 20 years or more to become a citizen, through even if you're married to a Kuwaiti. So yeah.
Wow.
There's no
And
hope. There's no hope of becoming a citizen here.
okay, and I think you would have answered this question for Akeelia. One thing I love about China is the fact that it allows me to venture into business. Are there business opportunities there, like opportunities to buy and sell?
No. No, as I said, foreigners can't really come and do any major business in Kuwait, right? So I know there was a Jamaican restaurant here last year, but they have to partner with Kuwait. I think it was shut down. It's not here anymore. But as an expat, as a foreigner, you can't start businesses here in Kuwait. No, the law doesn't allow you to.
Yeah, and I can respect that because they're protecting their citizens. You
Yeah.
know, and I mean, many other countries, let's not even go there. But yes. But when I was reflecting on after my 3rd year anniversary in Japan, and I was reflecting, Connie, and I was thinking to myself that when I left Jamaica and I was going to Japan, I had this idea that I was setting out to change the world. You know, you're thinking as a Christian woman, God has called you to this new place, and you're thinking, I'm going to do big, great things.
Yes.
And it's significant for me that after 3 years, the biggest change that I have been able to identify is within my own self.
Yes.
Like I have changed so much. I have just developed so much as a person, as a woman. And so I just want to know that we're closing. I want to know what are some of the lessons that you have learned during your time in Kuwait. What is it that stands out most to you?
Okay. All right. So for me, overall, I have changed a lot as well as a person and also as an educator. I have become so much more confident in my abilities and my skills and my knowledge. The one thing that I really appreciate in terms of professional growth here while teaching abroad is that you don't have to have a certain number of years of experience. You don't have to I don't know, but what I realize is once they know you have a skill, once they know you can do something, they are going to use you. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to leave Jamaica as well, because the environment teaching in Jamaica, I mean, I enjoy teaching in Jamaica, but there isn't much space for growth. There wasn't much, in my experience, there wasn't much room for growth. But here, trust me, I have grown so much professionally. I've been able to become more confident in my skills. When I'm in Jamaica, people don't want to use you because someone might be afraid that you're there to take their job or something. But here, once you have the skill, they will use you and they will help you to grow in that skill. So my confidence has really grown as a professional. As a person, trust me, I have seen strength that in myself that I never knew I had. There are days when I feel so homesick and I just want to go home and I feel so down. And there were some difficult days. And during those period of time, I've come to know myself more. I've come to know and connect with God more. And trust me, when I looking at where I was when I left Jamaica and looking at me now, I believe that I can conquer anything in this world and I can do anything. I always say to person, if you think it's easy to pack up and leave your home and travel across the world without family and friends, try it and let me know. Right? So a lot of persons look at it and they say, oh, she's fine, she's making money or whatever. But it's not just about money for me. It's not just about money. It's about the growth. It's about as a person. It's about the experiences and the people that you meet and the cultures that you get to interact with and the places that you're able to see. There's so much beauty in this world, and when you're able to go beyond Jamaica and see these things, it makes you appreciate life so much more. It makes you appreciate your home country so much more. And yeah, it's just a bundle of there's so many things, right? But overall, it's a rewarding experience. I've learned so many lessons. I've learned to value relationships even more, because when I look at so much things that's happening at home in Jamaica, and I feel as though I'm missing out, and I say, listen, the time you get to spend with your people, with your family, cherish it, because there are going to be times when you want to see them, you want to hold them, you want to hug, you want to kiss them, and you won't be able to. Yes, so that's what it has been for me. A lot of growth, a lot of development, in the midst of a lot of challenges.
Right. And Natasha says, can sense a genuine joy coming out of the discussion. Absolutely, Connie. Absolutely. Connie, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Oh my goodness, it has been so refreshing, and I'm sure it has been the same for others as well. So I know it's early for you. Let's just see what Akilia is saying. It changes one's perspective on things. It's great to see what's out there. You learn and you grow.
So true. That is so true.
Yeah, and I think that's a good note to end on. You learn and you grow. Thank you so much for joining, Nicole. Thank you, Akilia. Thank you, Natasha. Thank you, Jamar. Thank you to all my ninjas, to Mona, to Jody, to Aika. Thank you guys so much for joining. iStratos, Jamaican Insiders, everyone who joined this morning. And of course, Connie, it has been a blessing.
So thank you for having me. It was such a blessing being here as well.
All right. So I'm going to leave you so that you can go back to bed.
No, I'm going back to bed.
And I am going to go out and find something to do in Japan today. Thank you so much, Connie. Guys, you can connect. Oh, Connie, how can they get in contact with you?
Oh, I have a YouTube channel. So you can type Connie C. Walcott in YouTube and you will find my YouTube channel. There's a lot of information I shared there about Kuwait as well. So you can definitely check it out. You can also connect with me on Instagram at Connie C. Walcott and Facebook at Connie C. Walcott. So it's Connie C. Walcott across all platforms.
All platforms. All right. Thank you so much. And thank you guys for joining. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.